Hi everyone, welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And this month's Fun Facts article has been all about movies. Yesterday, we talked about movie trailers, which build excitement before a movie's official release. But why were they called trailers?
Well, that's a good question because a trailer should go after something. It trails, it follows something. But of course, when you go to a movie theater now, they show a few ads and then they show trailers. They show ads for the upcoming movies, then your movie starts. So they're before the movie. They're not trailing or following. Well, back in the old days, they used to have these very short clips or these very short episodes of exciting stories. And the trailers were there to show you what's going to happen next week. So you come back to watch the next chapter, the next part of the show. So they
came after a movie.
They would actually trail the exciting part in order to get you more excited about next week's show. So they did actually trail the main show that you were watching.
Yeah, but when film serials kind of disappeared and got replaced by radio stuff and then later on TV, then there was no point in putting a trailer at the end of a movie.
Right.
So they decided, well, let's move it before a movie, maybe even a few weeks or months before that movie comes out.
Yep.
Again, it's a marketing opportunity. Let's get people to want to come and pay their money in our cinema, that word from yesterday's article. Let's come and see it. All right, now we're going to introduce another thing about movies, so let's read through day 2 of the article.
Is there a trailer?
That was it.
Okay.
Reading.
Fun facts. The term B-movie instantly brings a certain image to English speakers' minds. Unoriginal stories, awkward acting, and laughable monsters are all elements of this form of low-budget filmmaking. Though we might like to laugh at them, not with them, there is a reason why these films have enjoyed such a long run on our screens. Originally, B-movies got their name from the way movies were shown in the 1930s. Just as 2 decades before, people then would go to the cinema to see several films. Each screening would include several shorts and 2 longer movies, an A movie and a B movie. The first of these was the main feature, while the second was a lower quality film. During the Great Depression, B-movies were very popular. While they might not have the quality of big Hollywood films, they were cheap to make and offered more for the audience's money. B-movies weren't showing in cinemas by the 1970s, though some, such as Creature from the Black Lagoon, had a lasting influence on popular culture, most didn't. Even so, there's still something to love about these easily forgettable films.
All right, so let's look at today's article. It's still on the topic of movies, but we're moving away from trailers. So let's find out what part of the movie world we're going to be discussing. It says the term B-movie instantly brings a certain image to English speakers' minds.
Yeah.
If someone says that I went to see a B movie or this actor was really good in a B movie, yeah, we know what that means. Well, if you know about movies, you know what that means. And you won't really have to think a lot because you understand it right away or instantly. The adverb instantly is basically right away, without any wasted time, without any time passing, it just happens right now. For example, John was very tired, so he fell asleep instantly. He didn't lie there for 5 or 10 minutes. His head went down, hit the pillow, and 10 seconds later, he was asleep.
Okay, so what is the kind of image, what do English speakers and people who know about movies think of when we talk about B-movies? Our next sentence explains unoriginal stories, awkward acting, and laughable monsters.
That's not scary.
Are all elements of this form of low-budget filmmaking. So unoriginal stories would be stories that like, yeah, I've seen this, I know what's going to happen, it's very predictable.
Oh, look, the monster's going to come out at you.
Yeah, the hero saves the girl, burning building, fight on the top, hero wins, bad guy dies. unoriginal. We also said awkward acting. The word awkward means it's not comfortable, it's not natural, it doesn't seem like these people are really the characters in the movies. It seems they think, oh, these words feel weird, this situation's awkward. Everyone can see the bits of sticky tape holding the set together. It's awkward, and they feel awkward, and watching it, you feel like, this isn't comfortable, this isn't natural, this doesn't feel very smooth and realistic.
All right.
Here's an example. Helen felt very awkward the first time she sang on stage. She was uncomfortable. She didn't really like it there. So we've got unoriginal stories.
Yes,
we've got awkward acting, and we have laughable monsters.
Laughable monsters are laughable a lot of things when it's not supposed to be laughable, when it's not supposed to be funny. We laugh at things that are funny. Ha ha ha, that's a very funny joke or something like that. But if we say something's laughable, we're not really saying it's funny, we're saying it's ridiculous. It's really not good. It's trying to be good, but it's missed it by a whole lot, so we're almost making fun of it. We're teasing it, we're mocking it in some kind of way. Now, it's of course not nice to say a person is laughable, because that's kind of saying you don't take them seriously, but a situation could be laughable. It's supposed to be right or correct, or this is the way it's supposed to go, but it's so far away from that. It's a giant failure. It's so bad that we can almost laugh at it as if it's supposed to be a joke. But of course, it's not really. So laughable monsters would be those monsters, and it's obviously a guy in a rubber suit. And he's trying to look like a big scary monster, but you're like, it's a guy in a rubber suit. It's supposed to scare me, but it's making me laugh instead.
And the reason he's in a rubber suit is because this movie is a low-budget movie. It doesn't have much money. The budget is the amount of money you plan to spend on a particular thing or during a particular time. You might say, this is our budget for the year, this is my budget for this month, this is my budget for the vacation. It's how much I'm prepared to spend on everything to do with this event or everything in this particular time period. Here's an example. If we want to travel in Europe for 6 months, we have to be careful of our budget. We need to plan carefully. How much can we spend on here, on food, on hotels, on transport? Work it all out. That's your budget.
All right. So yeah, movies, of course, today cost millions and millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars. So if you try to make a superhero movie with, $10,000, it's not going to look very good. All right, so back to the article. Though we might like to laugh at them and not with them, so we're laughing at how bad they are, we're not laughing with the writers because they are actually funny movies. No, we're kind of teasing and making fun of them. There is a reason why these films have enjoyed such a long run on our screens. Yeah, you might think that these movies are so terrible, who would like them? Well, the truth is, lots of people like them, partly because they are so terrible.
Now, in that sentence, we use the word why as a relative adverb. Why is used to give the reason for things. If we say, the teacher asked me the reason why I was late, that's what they mean. We want to know why. And all the words after why are the things the teacher wants the reason for. Now, we could replace why with that or for which. So we could say, the teacher asked me the reason that I was late, or the teacher asked me the reason for which I was late. Now, in fact, we could remove the words the reason from that sentence because why does the job of filling in. It's sort of almost like a pronoun. And that would leave us with the teacher asked me why I was late. So the thing after the why is what we want an explanation for.
All right, so originally, now back in the old days, back in movie history, we could say originally, B movies got their name from the way movies were shown in the 1930s. Okay, so it's not like an A movie is a big Hollywood movie with lots of money and good acting. A B movie is not so good. You might think that, but no, it actually goes back to the 1930s and how movies were shown back then.
Okay.
Let's find out more.
Yeah, we see just as 2 decades before, back in the 1910s, people then would go to the cinema to see several films. So what we're saying is in the 1910s, like we learned yesterday, people had the day at the movies. And in the 1930s, still, people wouldn't just go to see one movie, they'd go to see a few.
Interesting.
For a bit of a longer, one ticket would get you a bit more than just one movie.
Right. Each screening would include several shorts and 2 longer movies, an A movie and a B movie. Ah, I see. So yeah, you were going kind of for the whole afternoon. You'd see these shorts, maybe 10, 15 minutes long. That might be the kind of exciting action show with a surprise ending. And then the A movie, that would be sort of the big movie, the famous one, the one that might win Oscar awards.
With actors you know.
The big famous stars of the time. But then there would also be a B movie. Maybe, not quite as good, not quite as talented people working at it, but still a full-length movie. All right, now here we also had this word short. We're not using short, notice, as an adjective, like someone is tall or someone is short, a book is long or a book is short. No, we're talking about a short. We're using it as a noun, and that is basically a short film. I think short films are generally under 20 minutes long,
Sounds
20,
right.
30 minutes long, something like that. It's often something that film students might make because they don't have time or money to make a full story. It's kind of like writing a short story. If you have an idea that doesn't really work as a long book, you can write it as a short story or you can film it as a short film. They won't be seen in many movie theaters, but if you go to a film festival or you look online, sometimes you can find these short films, and really famous and talented people do often make them. As we read in the example sentence, the late great Kobe Bryant won an Oscar award for a short about basketball.
All right,
a
pretty
short
cool.
film. I didn't know that he won an Oscar award.
There you go.
That's amazing.
I think for short, they could also mean like very short cartoons. They're kind of very early
animated
cartoons.
shorts.
Yeah, maybe you'd watch a quick Mickey Mouse or something for 10 minutes and then you'd get your movies.
Steamboat Willie was the
Exactly.
first short. Yeah.
So, we talked about A movies and B movies. We see in the article the first of these, so that's the A movie, was the main feature, while the second was a lower quality film. Basically what we just explained. So, but we call this the main feature. Let's learn about that. So here we're using the word feature as a noun, and we're using it to mean a feature film, okay? So feature is feature film, and this is a film that is usually 90 minutes or longer. Okay, so it's kind of the movies we go and see now, they're pretty much all features. They're not short films, they're not parts of other films, they're not clips, they are feature films or features. Here's an example. On average, a Hollywood feature film costs $50 million to produce. So that's a feature, that's the A movie, but what about B movies?
Well, they've actually had their times when people really, really loved them and maybe weren't just laughing at them. It says, during the Great Depression, B movies were very popular. Interesting. So this is basically the 1930s. The Great Depression hit America much harder than it hit the rest of the world, but it did affect the whole world. And basically the economy just went south. It just got really bad. A lot of people lost their jobs, lost their homes. There was no money around, and so people didn't have a lot to do, and there was a lot of, feeling of sort of hopelessness. There's no jobs out there. No one I know is working. People didn't really have a very good mood at that time, and movies were one of the few places that they could go and for a few hours escape the problems of the Depression, escape the problems of the world that they were living in at that time.
Right, and B movies were popular. We see that while they might not have had the quality of big Hollywood films, they were cheap to make and offered more for the audience's money. So they could say, I'm just going to go and see a few of these B movies and it won't cost me much, whereas the A movies, the ticket price might be a lot higher.
It's true.
And there would be more B movies, I guess.
That's right.
Because cheaper to make.
Movie theaters now will show the same movie for a week or 2 or 3, and if movies are your only form of entertainment, That means what? You're going to go and see the same movie many, many times, but if they can make movies cheaply every week or even a few times a week, there'll be new movies out there, more entertainment for people who were looking for things to do. B movies, though, weren't showing in cinemas by the 1970s. In the 60s and 70s, movies, especially Hollywood movies, became much more professional, much more artistic. Making cheap B movies wasn't seen as a good thing, and if you wanted to make something cheap, they had television. You could go and make a TV show, so they weren't making B movies so much in the 70s.
Okay, but they didn't kind of disappear completely.
No.
We see that though some, such as Creature from the Black Lagoon, had a lasting influence on popular culture, most didn't. So we're saying there are a few famous B movies that people will still watch and talk about, and they had a kind of an effect on the history of movies. A lot of B movies just disappeared. They vanished. They weren't good enough. No one remembered them. The films were probably destroyed to make room for more A movies, and that's it. But some did have an influence. An influence is an impact. It's an effect that you have on something to change it, or at least to be remembered by it. It's something that people go, okay, that had an influence on my life. It maybe caused me to think or act in a slightly different way. It had a change that you could notice. Here's another example of that. Picasso had a huge influence on modern art. What he did caused changes.
Yeah, a lot of people liked his style and painted in that style, so that's his influence right there. Back to B movies, so they weren't so popular in the 1970s. Movies were becoming better. Television was there also for people to watch. But even so, there's still something to love about these easily forgettable movies. People still like them. They actually, a lot of them moved to sort of Saturday or Sunday afternoons on television.
Yeah.
Or late night television.
Yeah.
At 2 in the morning, they would put the B movies on TV, and young people like me would watch them and go, this is terrible, but it's really, really funny. So people do still love these B movies, and they found them in different ways, and that explains why they're still popular. Even so, this phrase, it's kind of saying that there's a thing that we just talked about, probably in the previous sentence, and it kind of is opposite to what we're thinking or reading or learning later on, all right? So we're kind of saying this might be true, but this other thing, which is almost totally opposite, is also true, all right? So there were dark clouds in the sky, even so we went to the park for our picnic. We saw the clouds, it might have stopped us, but here's the bit of a surprise or the twist, it didn't stop us, and we continued to do this other thing. Although those things would normally maybe cancel each other out.
Exactly. Now, we described B movies as easily forgettable films. If something is forgettable, it's easy to forget because it's poor quality, nothing really major or exciting or important happens to make you remember it. It just doesn't have a strong enough effect on you to stay in your memory. You could talk about a day being forgettable. Nothing major happened. You went to work or school, you had lunch, but it wasn't anything special. It was just a kind of normal, regular lunchbox, school lunch, something like that.
Right.
You went home, you had some pretty basic noodles, and you did your homework, and you went to bed.
Yeah.
It's a forgettable day. Someone will ask you, what do you do on Tuesday? I don't remember. It wasn't anything special. It was forgettable.
Yeah, or if you do remember, it just means it wasn't interesting, it wasn't special, it was very kind of boring. That's what we're basically saying there.
Okay, so people do remember some B movies. I was just mentioning one to Mike off camera, Hawk the Slayer.
Hawk the Slayer.
It's a fantasy movie. It's so badly made. It has very bad costumes, graphics, acting is so poor, but I kind of have a special love for it because of what it is and how it was. When I saw it, it was like, this is kind of bad, but it's good, and I will continue to watch it and like it.
And if you get together with friends who have the same feeling, it can be fun to just sort of make fun of the movie together.
Right.
That's part of the thing that people enjoy, is watching them with other friends and laughing at them with other friends too.
Right, that brings us to the end of today's article, so let's go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So our chat question is not about B movies, it's more about A movies.
Oh, okay.
What makes a great movie for you? And give some examples.
A good story.
Of course, yes, you need the story.
That's it. A good story. I'm not so interested in all the CG and the action scenes. I find too many movies these days use exciting, fights and stunts and all that because they don't have a good story. But a good story is really, really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, the acting is a big part of it.
Sure.
If it could be a great story, but if it's acted poorly, it's just going to kind of disappear because people think, well, this seemed cool, but I just I hated that guy and I hated that guy and I hated her because they just didn't seem to be living their roles and breathing their parts. So what are some examples of great movies? I mean, Casablanca, I guess.
Okay, sure.
Obvious.
That would be a good one. A lot of that are based on really good books. Often translate into great movies because the story has already been proven to be very, very entertaining. So that's another thing that I often look for. If it's a book that I read and I like the book, I would be more interested in seeing the movie than if it
could destroy it for you, though.
Or it could. That's a risk, but often they do a okay job at least.
Okay, pick a great movie then.
Oh, I can't off the top of my Parasite. I just saw that. So
that was pretty good.
Let's talk about that one.
Okay, Rashomon. There's a Japanese movie with a really interesting storyline. One of those movies you watch it again the second time, you're like, oh, I see what's going on now.
All right, that's a good one to hunt down from the 50s or 60s?
Something like that. Black and white Japanese movie.
All right, I'm sure all the kids are going to line up to watch that one.
You should. It's really good. Okay, well, we could go on about movies we like, but we're out of time. Thanks for watching, everybody. For English for You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
We'll talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Fun facts. The term B-movie instantly brings a certain image to English speakers' minds. Unoriginal stories, awkward acting, and laughable monsters are all elements of this form of low-budget filmmaking. Though we might like to laugh at them, not with them, there is a reason why these films have enjoyed such a long run on our screens. Originally, B-movies got their name from the way movies were shown in the 1930s. Just as 2 decades before, people then would go to the cinema to see several films. Each screening would include several shorts and 2 longer movies, an A movie and a B movie. The first of these was the main feature, while the second was a lower quality film. During the Great Depression, B movies were very popular. While they might not have the quality of big Hollywood films, they were cheap to make and offered more for the audience's money. B movies weren't showing in cinemas by the 1970s, though some, such as Creature from the Black Lagoon, had a lasting influence on popular culture, most didn't. Even so, there's still something to love about these easily forgettable films.
Vocabulary Review. Instantly. The traffic light turned green and the cars on the street instantly started to move. Awkward. Emily thought it was awkward when she called her teacher Mom by mistake. Budget. Sandra's vacation budget showed that she could spend a lot of money on food and gifts during her travels. Short. Evelyn spent 2 hours at the film festival and watched several shorts in that time. Feature. After a couple of ads were shown, the feature film started playing. Influence. Brian originally wanted to go abroad, but because of his mother's influence, he decided not to.
智慧小补帖
Laughable. Forgettable.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net